The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered by our guest chaplain, Pastor Timothy McLaurin, First Missionary Baptist Church, Frederick, Maryland.
Let us pray. Father, I thank you for these elected officials whom you have allowed to serve in their current capacities. As they gather to serve, I pray, Lord, that you would be in the midst. Be active in their debates and discussions that shall be a part of their decision-making process. Grant these members wisdom to make decisions that will promote and provide for the welfare of all. Be active in causing this collection of individuals with diverse backgrounds and ideologies to embody a spirit of partnership and solidarity that creates an atmosphere of purposeful productivity that produces a period of prosperity for all. Be active in this group to help them promote peace and foster unity in this season that is filled with anxiety and that finds our nation divided. Cause these public servants to be united in their passions, in their pursuits, and in your providential purposes. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Garcia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Trone, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize the service of Pastor Timothy McLaurin. As I stand on the floor of the U.S. House, I realize that our nation faces a troubling path ahead, but we all must recognize a higher purpose to leave our world a better world for our children and our grandchildren. We must all realize our role as public servants to serve those in need, those suffering from addiction and mental health issues, and our systemically racist criminal justice system. A son of Baltimore, Pastor McLaurin answered the call to serve his community over 2 decades ago. He has empowered his congregants with the lessons of God, the compassion of Jesus, and the guidance of profound faith. Pastor McLaurin and his wonderful wife, Kimberly, and their 3 beautiful daughters have stood as pillars of the community through easy days and tough times. I thank him and his family for being here with me today and for sharing his wisdom. I yield back.
The chair will entertain up to 5 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purposes does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, requesting unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize November as National Family Caregiver Month. Every day, more than 48 million family caregivers provide essential care to loved ones who are aging, ill, or living with a disability. As a former healthcare professional, I've seen these caregivers often go above and beyond to support their families, sacrificing their own time, energy, and well-being to ensure that those that they care for receive the support and the love that they need. Family caregivers are often the unsung heroes in our communities. Many balance caregiving with full-time jobs and raising children and managing their own health. They deserve our support and recognition, which is why I'm proud to support legislation like the Lowering Costs for Caregivers Act to help ensure these caregivers have the financial resources to continue providing care for their loved ones. Mr. Speaker, let this month be a reminder of our shared responsibility to support these caregivers who give so much to others. By showing our appreciation and lending a hand where we can honor the work that they do every day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purposes does the gentlewoman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and advise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life and legacy of Marie Flickinger, a remarkable woman who passed away this week after leading a life of excellence. A journalist and publisher by trade, Marie is perhaps best known for her work in her newspaper, The Leader, where she exposed the impact of toxic waste from a Pasadena plant at the Brio Superfund site, earning her the title of South Belt's own Erin Brockovich. But fighting for the people didn't stop her. She continued working through the pages of The Leader, and she also became the first woman elected to the San Jacinto College Board of Trustees. Marie served for 3 decades, transforming the college into a place where students felt supported and where education was accessible to all. Marie led a life of honesty, integrity, and service. And despite her humble demeanor, she left an enormous legacy. Our hearts go out to the entire Flukinger family. May she rest in peace. I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of longtime pillar of Southeast Houston community, Marie Flickinger, who passed away on November the 11th, 2024. After becoming the first woman elected to the San Jacinto College District Board of Trustees in 1995, Marie served as chair from the 2007 to 2013 and again from 2017 until her retirement on November the 4th of 2024. She spent these nearly 30 years devoted to ensuring the institution's success, achieving numerous awards along the way. Many have referred to Marie as the honorary mayor of the South Belt, due to her involvement in practically every aspect of the community. An extensive list that included the founding of the South Belt Ellington Chamber of Commerce, the local newspaper, and St. Luke, the Evangelist Catholic Church, as well as the organization of countless community events. She was a friend of mine. As a co-founder and publisher of the South Belt Ellington Leader, Marie became known for her work shedding light on the impact of the Brio Superfund site in the 1980s, which eventually led to its remediation. Marie also delved into the political arena, serving on 2 mayoral transition committees for the great city of Houston, Texas. Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt that Marie's legacy will be long remembered, and my prayers are with her family, her San Jacinto College family, and the South Belt community during this difficult time, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
To address the body for 1 minute without objection.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the work done by our food banks, food pantries, and other community-based organizations in Orange County and across the country. In recent years, almost 49 million Americans have turned to food banks for assistance. And back home in Orange County, over 300,000 of our neighbors don't know where the next meal is going to come from. And of those, about 20% are children. And every day during the holiday season, I joined with my community to make sure that these individuals have a meal. Today, I'm proud to be leading a bipartisan resolution with over 50 of our members acknowledging this essential work these groups do throughout our great country. They deserve the support of us Congress members, and I call on members of this Congress to join us in co-sponsoring this important resolution. And to the food banks and pantries and other community-based organizations across the country, thank you for your good work. You are appreciated. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I must bring attention once again to our nation's existential threat represented by $36 trillion in national debt and another $2 trillion deficit this year. And yet in this very chamber just a couple of days ago, every Democrat joined 2/3 of Republicans in adding $200 billion in new mandatory spending. So is our debt and our spending just campaign talking points? Is it just a slogan, or does it really matter, and do we really care about it? I want to commend Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, who just yesterday had the courage to stand alone and block emergency spending because he said it needs to be paid for. What a concept, that we would pay for the new spending on top of the layers and layers of debt that is causing so much inflation, higher interest rates, and threatening the financial future of our kids and our grandkids. Why not cut the expansion of the IRS? Why not cut $1 trillion in climate credits? Why not cut still the tens of billions of COVID funds that are still not covered for? Why not cut the spending for the UN or UNRWA or the WHO? Mr. Speaker, there is so much low-hanging fruit. I'm so thankful that we're going to have Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy looking at that in the new administration, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, to rise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Dr. Brittany F. Mobley, who was named the 2024 National Distinguished Principal of Georgia. This award was administered by the National Association of Elementary School Principals National Distinguished Principals Program, an annual award that honors the exemplary leadership of principals across each state. In 2020, while educators across the country were facing challenges with remote teaching due to the pandemic, Mrs. Mobley was working to open the county's newest elementary school, Francis Meeks Elementary School. Francis Meeks is in Richmond Hill, Georgia, and serves its students with unique learning experiences, such as the Elementary Agriculture Program, that provides students with hands-on learning experience pertaining to agriculture and creates long-standing community partnerships. Thanks to Dr. Mobley, the school boasts a 95% curriculum mastery rate and a growing number of students qualifying for its gifted programs. Congratulations to Dr. Mobley on this award, and we greatly appreciate the work she has dedicated to the students of Georgia's 1st Congressional District. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Next. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. Pursuant to the permission granted in Clause 2H of Rule 2 of the Rules of the U.S. House of Representatives, the clerk received the following message from the Secretary of the Senate on November 14, 2024, at 4:20 p.m. That the Senate passed Senate 1316, Senate 4716, Senate 5314, that the Senate passed without amendment H.R. 5464, H.R. 5861, H.R. 6324, H.R. 7333, appointments, the National Council on Disability, United States Semi-Quincentennial Commission. Signed sincerely, Kevin F. McCumber, Acting Clerk.
The chair lays before the House the following enrolled bills.
Senate 1510, an act to amend provisions relating to the Office of the Inspector General of the Government Accountability Office and for other purposes.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fox, seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to House Resolution 1568, I call up the bill H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act, and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 589, H.R. 8932, a bill to establish an earlier application processing cycle for the FAFSA.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1568, the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Education and the Workforce printed in the bill is adopted, and the bill as amended is considered read. The bill as amended shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Education and the Workforce or their respective designees. The gentlewoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fox, and the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Scott, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to insert extraneous material on H.R. 8932.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of H.R. 8932,
the FAFSA Deadline Act. And I start by highlighting the critical role the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, plays in the lives of many American students and families. For them, FAFSA isn't just a form, it's a path to post-secondary education. In recent years, bipartisan efforts were made to simplify this complex, daunting process. The FAFSA Simplification Act, passed in 2020, was intended to make applying for financial aid more accessible and less overwhelming. And that's what this country needs, an effective, user-friendly system that lowers barriers to education and increases access for students of all backgrounds. Unfortunately, we're here because the Biden-Harris administration is failing to provide this vital tool to the very students and families it was designed to help. Instead of the smooth rollout we planned, the Biden-Harris administration's execution of the new simplified FAFSA has led to widespread frustration, delays, and costly errors. Imagine being a high school senior working hard to qualify for scholarships and planning your future only to be met with glitches, incomplete forms, and endless processing errors. That was the reality for too many students. Last year, the Department of Education delayed the FAFSA release until late December, 3 full months after its recommended October 1st release date, due to administrative incompetence. The soft launch that followed was chaotic, resulting in millions of errors and little clarity regarding the form's actual functionality. Delays in the department's failure to communicate effectively left families in a state of uncertainty, scrambling to understand what aid they would receive, or even if they would receive aid at all. As we sit here, the FAFSA is delayed for a second straight year, and some capabilities are still unavailable, forcing students, schools, and state agencies to wait again. The FAFSA Deadline Act, introduced by Representative Aaron Houchin, is the answer. This legislation seeks to hold the Department of Education accountable by requiring the FAFSA to be available by October 1 each year, and it does so with broad bipartisan support. The bill passed through committee 34-6, sending a clear signal that both sides of the aisle believe families deserve better. In short, today's conversation is about restoring the promise of FAFSA, fulfilling our obligation to students, and making sure the department's failure is not a new normal. It's our job to ensure that the Department of Education rolls out the FAFSA each year with clear timelines and accurate data so American families can rely on this process. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and with that, I urge a yes vote on the FAFSA Deadline Act and reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina is reserving. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. Speaker, I rise in support of H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act, which would set a firm October 1st deadline for the Department of Education to roll out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA form, starting in 2025. This bill will help millions of students and families access federal financial aid in a timely manner. We know that higher education is a pathway to opportunity, but rising costs of college has made it out of reach for a lot of students. Federal aid, including Pell Grants and student loans, is essential to making college affordable. That's why in 2020, I worked with Senator Lamar Alexander to pass the FAFSA Simplification Act to make federal student aid easier to access. Regrettably, last year, technical problems with the newly redesigned FAFSA form delayed the students' access to this vital aid, and as a result, too many students could not submit their applications on time, and many struggled to get the support they needed to resolve those issues. When the committee first considered this bill in July, I voted in opposition because I had serious concerns that the implementation deadline may have forced the Department of Education to roll out an incomplete form on October 1st of this year. However, because we're now considering the bill after October 1st, the deadline will apply next year, 2025, and that gives the department ample time to make improvements and fix any lingering issues. We now have helpful information from the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office that provided specific recommendations on how the department can continue to improve the rollout and implementation of FAFSA. H.R. 8932 sets a clear, firm deadline for rolling out FAFSA while still giving the Department of Education time to ensure the application functions properly for all students. The bill strikes a balance between ensuring timely access to financial aid and not compromising the quality of the application process. We've made significant progress in simplifying the FAFSA and expanding financial aid in recent years. According to the Department of Education, despite the ongoing FAFSA challenges, roughly 500,000 more students received a Pell Grant this year than last year, due primarily to the changes in the formulas used. Under the leadership of President Biden and congressional Democrats, the maximum Pell Grant has increased by $900 over the last several years, giving students additional financial support to cover college costs. This bill will help ensure that even more students have the information they need in a timelier manner to access Pell Grants and other vital student aid. So I support the bill and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 5 minutes to the gentlewoman from Indiana, Representative Houchin, the author of the bill.
From Indiana is recognized.
Thank you. As a mother of 2 college students, I am all too familiar with the concerns voiced by the nearly 18 million students and their families who attempted to fill out the free application for federal student aid this year and who are dreading a failed rollout again this year. I'm here today to speak on their behalf. I'm especially frustrated considering the Department of Education has had 3 years to simplify the FAFSA as Congress has dictated. This clear misplacement of priorities led the 2024 FAFSA to be delayed by 3 months with continuous technical issues. A scathing report from the Government Accountability Office found not only did the Biden-Harris Department of Education repeatedly fail to release FAFSA, when they finally released it, it didn't work. And then they left millions of calls from American families unanswered. 3/4 of calls to the Department of Education about the broken FAFSA were not answered. And when they did answer the phone, they told parents, just keep trying. It's as if we need to take the Department of Education, unplug it, plug it back in, and hope that it might work. But it's not going to. They're still unprepared. The Department of Education has already failed students again this year with the expectation that the form will now again be 2 months late. My bill, the FAFSA Deadline Act, sets a firm October 1st deadline to publish FAFSA consistent with what has been expected for years. Thankfully, this wasn't an issue under President Trump. We can look forward to prioritizing FAFSA once again in this next administration. It's imperative that we do not allow this to become precedent and that we work together to make sure that American families are taken care of when applying for the FAFSA. We want this program to work. We want to make sure that children and families that want to send their kids to college have the availability to do that, and that the FAFSA is available and workable. For parents and students across the country, I urge my colleagues to support this legislation, and I yield back.
Chairwoman from North Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Lee Carter.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in support of H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act. I'd like to thank Chairwoman Fox and Ranking Member Scott for their collaboration and efforts on this bill. I'd like to thank President Biden and Vice President Harris for working with the Department of Education and the great workers there to address the issues that occurred earlier. This crucial legislation would set a firm October 1st deadline for the Department of Education to roll out the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA form, to ensure that students access to federal student aid in a timely manner. For many students, FAFSA is the gateway to realizing their dreams of higher education. In 2022, financial aid through grants or loans provided vital support to over 700,000 undergraduates in Texas. In my district, Lone Star College, 100% of students receive financial aid, while 97% receive it at Texas Southern University, 66% at the University of Houston, and 39% at Houston Community College benefited from these essential resources. As the cost of college continues to rise, it's crucial that we provide students with every opportunity to apply for financial aid in a timely manner, ensuring their applications are processed without delay. As a mother, like many, and parents like here today, I look forward to implementation of this legislation, which represents more than a deadline. It's a commitment to ensuring that students and parents have access to the resources they need to pursue higher education. Access to affordable education should not be hindered by delays, and setting this October 1st deadline is a crucial step to make the FAFSA process more predictable and accessible for millions of students and families across our country. Let us help all students focus on their studies and pursue their academic goals leading to their American dream today. I urge and encourage all my colleagues to vote in favor of H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act. Thank you, and I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman for Virginia reserves. Gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to another gentleman from Virginia, Representative Good.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the FAFSA Deadline Act. This legislation will formally set October 1 as the annual publication date for the free application for financial student aid, or FAFSA. A formal set deadline will ensure that students, parents, and schools have adequate time to apply for, process, and evaluate their financial aid packages. In 2023, instead of releasing the FAFSA on the traditional existing deadline of October 1, the Department of Education waited until the last possible moment and then published a faulty application that was 3 months late. The next several months were spent fixing numerous technical issues, and this debacle led to a 12% reduction in the FAFSA form completion. At least the Department of Education is consistent in their failures, however, as once again this year they missed the October deadline from 45 days ago. Before the incompetent and woke-obsessed Biden-Harris administration, Congress could depend on the Department of Education to do its job on time. But the Biden-Harris focus has been on the illegal student loan transfer scheme rather than implementing the required programs. We need accountability to end this perpetual cycle of incompetence. I offered an amendment that is now included in the bill that requires the Department of Education to certify to Congress 1 month in advance whether or not the FAFSA form will in fact be ready by the October 1 deadline. If the department certifies in the negative or fails to certify at all, phase 2 of the accountability kicks in, and within the month, the Secretary of Education would have to testify before Congress regarding their latest failure to meet the deadline. In this testimony, the Secretary would be required to provide details regarding the financial impact this delay will have on its students that it's supposed to be serving. When Congress sets a deadline, we expect it to be followed. If agencies can't meet that expectation, they need to explain why to the American people, and I hope members from both parties who express disappointment, if not surprise, at the most recent FAFSA rollout, I hope they can all join the ranking member, my friend from Virginia, in supporting the simple reforms of the FAFSA Deadline Act, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman from North Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that this year's FAFSA process was a debacle. However, we're missing part of the story if we don't at least mention the work the department has already done to get FAFSA back on track. This college support strategy deployed experts to colleges across the country to help financial aid officers navigate the new processing system. The system provided one-time grants to school districts, states, and nonprofit organizations to scale up their ability to provide support to students. They had workshops, advising sessions, and media campaigns funded through the strategy to help produce a significant increase in FAFSA submissions throughout the summer. Additionally, as the department prepares for the launch of this year's FAFSA form, they've taken great strides in improving the transparency and fixing technological issues. So I'd like to enter into the record a document from the Department of Education titled a focus on improving the FAFSA experience updates, actions, and a path forward to 2025-26 cycle. This document outlines 10 core areas to focus on making improvements to FAFSA process for both students and colleges. I'd also, Mr. Speaker, would like to offer into the record a letter from the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, which says in part, by submitting an October launch date only addresses a piece of the puzzle. Consistency is another. Students must be able to trust that the financial aid application process will function as intended and that they will receive clear communications on the way. And they wrote otherwise in support of the legislation. From the Hope Center at Temple University, they said that students and their families deserve a form available all hours of the day for all types of applicants and results in a swift transfer for their information to states and colleges that will develop their financial aid packages. They were concerned that implementing a rigid deadline less than 3 months away will force additional technical issues for applicants. Therefore, we request that you amend H.R. 8932 to start the new deadline, October 1st, 2025, and that is exactly what we have done in this underlying bill. I'd ask that this be entered into the record.
Without objection.
And one from the a letter in support from the American Council on Education, a consortium of several national college organizations, also in support.
Without objection.
I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Utah, Representative Owens.
Gentleman's recognized.
Dr. Fox. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to urge my colleagues to pass H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act. This bill addresses the urgent need for predictability, and transparency in release of FAFSA, the form that helps so many American families to plan and afford college. For years, students and parents could rely on October 1st release date for FAFSA, giving families time to understand their aid options and make informed decisions about the future. But under the Biden-Harris administration, we've seen a pattern of delays, poor planning, and worse, indifference to the impact of these failures have on Americans. After years of groundwork laid by the bipartisan FAFSA Simplification Act, the Department of Education had every reason to be prepared. But in 2023, they missed the mark. And not just by days or weeks, they delayed the form's release until the end of October, leaving families in a lurch and scrambling to meet the last-minute delays. The consequences of these delays are real. It isn't just about dates on a calendar. It's about futures on hold. The Education Department's dysfunction means 430,000 fewer students filed FAFSA this year. And that's not a small number. It's hundreds of thousands of young people who have abandoned their plans for college simply because they couldn't get the information they needed. And beyond the missed opportunities for students, these delays burden schools and states, preventing them from processing and packaging on time and creating even more uncertainty in the already challenging time for higher education. The FAFSA Deadline Act isn't just a fix, it's a promise that our Department of Education will be held to an October 1st release date, giving students, families, and schools the clarity and predictability they deserve. This bill ends the needless confusion. It says that future administrators won't be able to move goalposts or let the deadline slip through the fingers, all while families are left paying the price. Mr. Speaker, we're here to make college more accessible for our kids. H.R. 8932 will ensure that students don't lose the chance to pursue the higher education just because of bureaucratic missteps. It's a common sense reform that will bring accountability and order to a system that desperately needs it. I urge my colleagues to support this bill, not just for us, but for the millions of young Americans counting on us to keep the doors of opportunity wide open. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close. I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California, Representative Kiley.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things that frustrates so many Americans is that our government has gotten involved in doing many things that it really shouldn't be doing. So many excessive regulations, outsized bureaucracies. But then all too often it fails to competently perform the basic functions that people actually expect from the government and that they're entitled to as taxpayers. And the FAFSA fiasco is a very clear example of that. Every year, high school students across the country fill out the free application for federal student aid. The FAFSA opens doors for millions of students nationwide, ensuring that post-secondary education is accessible and affordable. Traditionally, the form has been released by October 1st, giving students and their families plenty of time to decide what post-secondary education option is right for them. Unfortunately, the Department of Education has neglected its core responsibility to these students. The department's failure to meet deadlines has created unnecessary uncertainty for students and families already struggling with the college application process, which can be very stressful to begin with. The FAFSA Simplification Act, passed in 2020, was supposed to make the application process easier to navigate. The department was even given an extra year to ensure a smooth rollout of the revised form. However, despite that extended timeline, it failed to deliver on time, and the ones who suffered the most were the ones who could least afford it, the students who could least afford it. The department knew as early as August of 2022 that they'd missed the October 1st, 2023 deadline, but then failed to inform the public. 8 months later, they announced a delay until, quote, sometime in December, only to wait until the last day of the year for a so-called soft launch. This incomplete rollout left critical parts of the form completely unusable. Even more troubling, the department abused its statutory gap, the statutory gap that allows a release by January 1st by not even being fully prepared for that hard cutoff. When processing finally began, millions of applications were riddled with calculation errors, forcing reprocessing and causing chaos for students and institutions. The consequences were devastating. About 430,000 fewer students filed a FAFSA this year compared to last year. To make matters worse, millions of calls for help went unanswered. Families were left in the dark, scrambling for answers with no support during one of the most critical periods in the child's academic journey. This is why I am proud to co-sponsor H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act. This bill will hold the Department of Education accountable by setting a hard deadline of October 1st for releasing the FAFSA and requiring an accountability check-in each September to ensure they stay on track. I urge colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this important legislation, and I yield back.
Time's expired. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How much time is available on both sides?
$22 minutes for the one from Virginia, 18 and a half for the gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you. I reserve the balance of my time.
North Carolina is recognized. Gentleman from Virginia reserves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. As my colleague from Virginia said, several organizations have announced public support for the FAFSA Deadline Act. Here are some of the things that they're saying. The American Council for Education said, quote, given the issues institutions of higher education face during the 24-25 FAFSA processing cycle, it is critically important to avoid future problems. For this academic year, overall first-year enrollment is down by 5%, at least in part due to issues with the 2024-2025 FAFSA. In addition, universal access to the 2026 FAFSA is already delayed, and some campus officials have expressed concerns about whether the FAFSA will be fully available by December 1. We offer our full support for this piece of legislation and hope to see it pass the House, end quote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
I reserve.
Gentleman from Virginia recognizes, reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Michigan, Representative Walberg.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the chairwoman and Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to co-sponsor H.R. 8932, the FAFSA Deadline Act, and I commend Congresswoman Houchin for her leadership on this important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, it isn't too often we get to say this, but there is bipartisan agreement in recognizing that the Department of Education's rollout of FAFSA has been nothing short of an embarrassment. Sadly, it's an embarrassment that has negatively impacted students across the country, teachers, professors, especially lower-income students who need financial assistance the most. I was proud to be part of the bipartisan effort to overhaul FAFSA and make it simpler, but after 3 long years to implement the reforms, the department dropped the ball numerous times. As a result, over 430,000 fewer students submitted a FAFSA form according to GAO. Additionally, there have been numerous reports from across the country about how this botched rollout has affected institutions. This fall semester, institutions experienced the steepest drop in first-year enrollment since the pandemic, pushing many institutions to the financial brink. This is unacceptable. H.R. 8932 is a common-sense bill to provide students, families, and institutions much-needed clarity by ensuring the FAFSA is released and fully operational on October 1 of each year. Doing so will ensure schools and counselors are able to conduct outreach efforts as needed. Colleges will be able to get their financial aid offers processed in a timely manner, and students will be able to make informed decisions about their academic future. Mr. Speaker, under the Biden-Harris administration, the Department of Education has become a bloated arsenal of bureaucracy, more focused on woke policies than its core mission. I look forward to working with the incoming Trump administration on right-sizing the Department of Education, if that's even possible, and putting American students and their families first. I urge all members to support H.R. 8932, and I yield back.
Gentleman from North Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close.
We are also prepared to close, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of the time. In closing, Mr. Speaker, this bill is about improving the process going forward. Obviously, the FAFSA rollout was a debacle, but this FAFSA Simplification Act has resulted in, even though it was a debacle, over 500,000 more students receiving financial aid. We need to make sure that students and families have the information they need to make informed decisions about their future. Since H.R. 8932 will be implemented for next year's form, 2025 and onward, I believe it strikes the right balance between setting a clear deadline and providing the flexibility for the Department of Education to fix any lingering issues as they finish implementing the bipartisan FAFSA Simplification Act this year. So I urge my colleagues to support the legislation to help ensure financial aid is distributed promptly and effectively, and I look forward to continuing to improve the FAFSA form and expanding access to financial aid as originally intended in the FAFSA Simplification Act. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The FAFSA is a cornerstone of America's commitment to educational opportunity. When we fail to uphold this promise, we jeopardize the dreams and hard work of students who look to post-secondary education as a pathway to a better future. The FAFSA Deadline Act is a necessary measure to protect that future by enforcing deadlines, ensuring transparency, and making certain that families receive the aid they depend on to make college accessible. This is about delivering the basic functionality students deserve and safeguarding their ambitions against bureaucratic failure. Students have enough on their plates as they prepare for college. It's up to us to make sure that the federal government isn't adding to that burden. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back and I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this piece of legislation.
Gentlewoman yields. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 1568, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to establish an earlier application processing cycle for the FAFSA.
The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Speaker,
For what purpose? Woman seek recognition.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess for a period less than 15 minutes. Thank you.
On this vote, the yeas are 381, the nays are 1. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn to meet on Monday next, when it shall convene at noon for morning hour debate at 2 p.m. for legislative business.
Without objection.
I ask, keep going.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that H.Res. 1410 be laid on the table.
Without objection. The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I seek to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Good to go. Madam Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of Flora Leamer, who was the heart and soul of Clarence, New York. Flora was someone who always said yes when it came to helping a neighbor. Every community needs more people like Flora. At local events, she was a familiar sight, often with a camera in hand or alongside her husband, John, riding side by side in parades decked out all in red, white, and blue. Flora was tireless. She always went above and beyond in everything she did. From the Clarence Chamber of Commerce to the Farmers Market, from historical societies to Winterfest, Flora's involvement left a lasting mark on the community. Her kindness and warmth and boundless energy were a gift to Clarence, and she will be deeply missed by all who had the privilege to know her. May this lasting legacy continue to inspire us all to be more like Flora. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise to honor the remarkable life of Buddy Rich, a true servant leader who was not only dedicated to serving our country, but also the city of Kinston. He was a veteran, entrepreneur, and champion for the city. Buddy's legacy began with service in the 82nd Airborne Division during the Korean War. Upon returning, he transformed his entrepreneurial spirit into an engine for community betterment, establishing the Boys and Girls Club of Lenoir County, revitalizing downtown Kinston, and serving 16 years as mayor. His leadership brought over 20 industries into our region, and Kinston earned the All-American City Award not once but twice. Buddy's life reminds us that service is a calling. To his family, we extend our deepest gratitude for sharing such an extraordinary man with us. To the city of Kinston, may Buddy's legacy inspire generations. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to congratulate Miss Ruth Henderson McQueen for making it to the National 4-H Hall of Fame. Ruth is a remarkable Tennessean who's dedicated her life to serving our communities, agriculture, and especially 4-H youth. Ruth started out in 4-H as a 5th grader in Loudoun County. Back then, her family didn't even have indoor plumbing, much less a phone or a TV. But through 4-H, Ruth's world opened up. Can we have order, Madam Chair?
Members, please take your conversations outside. The House will be in order. Gentleman is recognized.
Over her 26-year career, Madam Speaker, with UT Extension, Ruth accomplished a lot of firsts. She became the first female president of UT's Agriculture Honor Society, Gamma Sigma Delta, and she organized events like Ag Day that bring our community together. But what's most special about Ruth is her dedication to people. She oversaw a program that welcomed over 850 Japanese students into Tennessee homes where they learned about our culture and creating lifelong friendships, Madam Speaker. Even after her retirement in 2001, Ruth stayed active. She served on boards and mentored young adults. She's also very well spoken, unlike myself. She's very compassionate, and many people have said that she's one to call when you need a speech, a mentor, or a listening ear. Ruth, your dedication and kindness have made our community a much better place, and thank you for all you've done. You deserve this honor, and thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield the remainder of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Ohio seek recognition? The gentlelady from Ohio is recognized for 1 minute.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I rise today to honor the life and legacy of former Lucas County Commissioner and a dear friend, Sandra Sandy Eisenberg, a trailblazer in Northwest Ohio, a shero for our community. Serving as commissioner for 17 years, Sandy was a fierce and dedicated public servant with good humor and a love of people. Her impact will be felt for generations. She paved the way for women in government when there were few role models, and she held her ground with both strength and grace, with a fierce loyalty to our home county. She fought tirelessly for the little gal and the little guy, bringing voice and dignity to all corners of our community, and her relentless work brought help to thousands of people and transformative projects to our community like Fifth Third Field, the home of the Toledo Mud Hens, a beacon for downtown Toledo and redevelopment that she championed. Personally, I'll always remember her wise counsel, her humor. She stood shoulder to shoulder with us in every fight that mattered for our working families, and truly Northwest Ohio has lost a true advocate, a friend and formidable force. Madam Speaker, today we remember Sandy Eisenberg with gratitude, and our community must carry forward her legacy of courage, compassion, and unyielding service. May our love and gratitude help heal her beloved family, her sister Barbara, Barbara's husband Alan, her sons Michael, Dennis, and her grandchildren Madison, Morgan, Max, and Maris. For all of us, Sandy was a rock of strength. Her indomitable spirit accompanies us always. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Arizona seek recognition?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To address the House for 1 minute.
The gentlelady from Arizona is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to recognize my Chief of Staff, Rachel Harris. With my upcoming retirement, I think it's important to recognize the individuals who have supported me throughout my tenure in Congress, none more important than my staff. Rachel joined my team as Communications Director in March of 2020 and has served as my Chief of Staff since October of 2021. Rachel is a hard worker who can always be relied upon to get things done. No matter the task, large or small, Rachel is ready to tackle it. Originally from Russellville, Arkansas, Rachel has been committed to public service from an early age, including volunteering on local political campaigns and even serving as an intern here in the U.S. House of Representatives. Throughout her tenure, she has shown tremendous dedication to me, my staff, our constituents, the state of Arizona, and the nation. As I leave Congress and she leaves the House, I have no doubt she will do great things in all of her future endeavors. Thank you, Rachel, for your service. I truly appreciate you. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute. A gentleman will suspend. Members in the back, please take your conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to commemorate the 3rd anniversary of the landmark bipartisan infrastructure law, which has delivered over $1 billion and 13,000 jobs in my district. I see the ways this legislation is helping out communities. That is why I'm committed to protecting it in the next administration. Either out of misguided policy priorities or merely out of revenge, I know that there are members in this chamber who have expressed eagerness to dismantle these programs. We have already been calling out people who voted no but still took the dough. Now we need to be ready to highlight how these efforts to undermine these laws would harm middle-class working families. In my role on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I will work to protect our landmark achievements every single day. And I will happily remind my colleagues who may suddenly embrace government spending again under President Trump, who is really to thank for their community's improved quality of life. Madam Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Seeking unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in California, we've had this boondoggle since 2008 known as high-speed rail. Now, it might work good in other places, Europe, Japan, places like that, but given California's topography and the nature of the people there, they're not going to use it. And so what do we have? What was approved back in 2008 by the voters was a $33 billion project, of which $9 billion would be done by bonds, and the rest would come from the private sector. Well, the private sector is staying away in droves because it's a big money loser. And so instead, they've had to go to other methods of getting funding in, including cap and trade, which is taxing people basically on fuel, as you see California fuel prices going up more and more. $1.50 a gallon, maybe $2 a gallon by the time the next round of taxation hits drivers in California. And they still have ideas about coming back and getting even more federal money. The so-called Stimulus Act of 2009, they got about $3 billion out of that. They want to come back for another $3 billion on top of the $3 billion they already got out of the so-called Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. So this thing continues to be a rat hole for money. We should not send any more federal dollars there. We should not send any more state dollars or cap and trade or automobile driver dollars towards it, because it isn't going to work. Instead, let people invest in their highways and their airports, something that people actually use and can afford. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Virginia seek recognition? The gentlelady from Virginia is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, November is Prematurity Awareness Month, and November 17th is Prematurity Awareness Day. It is an opportunity for us to come together and commit to address the United States' horrific preterm birth rate. This is an issue that is personal to me. My daughter, Samantha, was born by emergency C-section 9 weeks early when my placenta ruptured because I had placenta previa. I was one of the lucky ones, and after 6 weeks in the NICU, she was able to come home, and you saw her standing with me when I took my oath of office. You never would know that she started less than 5 pounds. Not everyone is as lucky. The March of Dimes just issued its annual report card for preterm birth rates, and the United States earned a D+ once again, remaining the worst grade in the report's history. Chronic conditions, inadequate prenatal care, and racial disparities fuel these historic preterm birth rates, where 10.4% of the preterm birth rate remains at 10.4% with significant disparities among racial and ethnic groups. We have more work to do, and please stay tuned because next week I will be proposing a bipartisan measure to help bring this birth rate down. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from West Virginia seek recognition?
Seek to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, the National World War I Memorial here in Washington was recently completed with a sculpture known as A Soldier's Journey. In the spirit of honoring our World War I veterans, I rise to commemorate Lieutenant Lewis Bennett, Jr. of Weston, West Virginia. Bennett realized the power aviation could bring to the war effort and formed the West Virginia Flying Corps. When the Corps failed to achieve military status, Bennett chose commendably to interrupt his studies at Yale and enlist in the British Royal Flying Corps. Bennett flew combat missions in Western Europe and over the course of only 9 days amassed a remarkably high number of 12 kills of enemy aircraft. Lieutenant Bennett became known as the Balloon Buster for shooting down 9 German surveillance balloons, which is dangerous because when the balloons blow up, they sometimes take the plane down with it. On August 24th, 1919, he was shot down and killed by German anti-aircraft artillery. In honor of her only son, Mrs. Sally Bennett donated her stately home in 1922 to Lewis County for a war memorial and library. Mrs. Bennett used her considerable wealth to fund memorials of World War I veterans, and I'm pleased we have a place to memorialize them here in our nation's capital. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to celebrate the passage of H.R. 82, the Social Security Fairness Act. This legislation will finally repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, mistakes which have unfairly reduced or eliminated Social Security benefits for millions of Americans who've devoted their careers to public service. And I'm proud that a strong bipartisan majority came together to protect their hard-earned benefits. But as we celebrate this historic vote, it's also important to recognize that, were it not for the discharge petition, this bill, despite its strong bipartisan support, would never have even come to the floor for a vote. Too often, the extreme flanks of both parties are calling the shots, leaving the majority of members who are seeking bipartisan and thoughtful policy making absolutely hamstrung. So as we look forward to the 119th Congress, it is my hope that we can strengthen the discharge petition, allowing us to bring more meaningful bipartisan pieces of legislation to the floor and more bipartisan productivity back to this chamber. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, rise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to share the life of Ohio's 2nd District native and Major League Baseball star Al Oliver of Portsmouth, Ohio. Born in 1946, Al learned from a young age what it means to be a leader. After his mother passed away at age 11, he took on the incredible responsibility of caring for his 2 younger siblings. A standout baseball and basketball player at Portsmouth High School, he would later sign with the Pittsburgh Pirates at just 17 years old and would make his Major League debut just 3 years later. Oliver's career lasted 18 years, including stops with 7 Major League Baseball teams. Most notably, Oliver was part of the September 1, 1971 Pirates lineup that featured the first all-black lineup in Major League Baseball history. That 1971 team would later go on to win the World Series. In 1986, Oliver retired as a 7-time All-Star, a 3-time Silver Slugger, and a World Series champion. Much like the story of our nation, Oliver's is a story of overcoming challenges. Al Oliver's story of fighting through adverse odds is an example to our nation's children. In America, through hard work and perseverance, one can accomplish anything they set their mind to, and Al Oliver did that. Thank you, Al Oliver. A grateful nation salutes you. Play ball. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island seek recognition?
I ask to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For 40 years, an unfair law has cut the Social Security benefits of millions of police officers, firefighters, first responders, public school teachers, and other government employees, even though they pay just as much into the Social Security system as other Americans. These people, our friends and neighbors who keep us safe and teach our children, should not be penalized for pursuing careers in public service. That is why I proudly voted this week for the Social Security Fairness Act to end the GPO and WEP rules that have unfairly reduced the earned Social Security benefits of public servants. This is a matter of basic fairness. All Americans deserve to retire with dignity, but especially those who serve our communities in education, law enforcement, public safety, and other service roles. It is time to right this wrong, and now that the House has passed this bill, I urge the Senate to take it up immediately to restore full Social Security benefits for the millions of Americans who have been treated so unfairly. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I request a unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, and if I so choose to revise my remarks, I'd like to do that too. So.
Without objection, the gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to honor Stephanie Weingart, the EMS Division Chief of the Washington Township Avon Fire Department, and for winning the 2024 Indiana Emergency Response Conference EMS Officer of the Year Award. Stephanie, and we have a poster, won this award for her exceptional leadership, professionalism, and dedication to serving our central Indiana communities. She began her EMS career in 1998 as a volunteer EMT with the Wayne Township Fire Department. She tirelessly worked for Wishart Ambulance Service while pursuing her paramedic certification from St. Vincent Hospital. In 2023, she became Washington Township Avon Fire Department's first female EMS chief. Thanks to Stephanie's leadership, her teams are always well equipped when responding to emergency situations and excels in patient care. We are so grateful for her service to our central Indiana communities for over 2 decades, and I congratulate her on her outstanding achievement. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I move the House do now adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until noon on Monday next for morning hour debate.